coming up on China Chat.
So we are coming to you live from the Q Bar at the West in Guangzhou. Today's episode is about culture clash.
When you're drunk and wearing heels, how do you use a squatter toilet?
I used to be a yoga instructor.
Okay.
Pushing in China, not waiting in lines.
If you're at the back of a line and you're old, and you look at the front and you're like, I might be dead before I get to the front.
One time I went to Zimbabwe, and they didn't speak English there either. I wonder why that is.
We're speaking out to those expats in Guangdong province and saying, learn Chinese. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to China Chats. China Chats, a FaceTime production for Guangdong Radio and Television. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a very special edition of China Chats because we are joined by a live audience today. Let's hear you, live audience. That's right, we are coming to you live from the Q Bar at the West in Guangzhou. Let's give a huge round of applause for the Westin for having us here today. Today's episode is about culture clash. We're going to be talking about Chinese culture in particular. And not just Chinese culture, but what foreigners in China notice about Chinese culture. I feel the energy in the room changing already, but don't worry. What we did is we went around Guangzhou and we talked to people on the street, foreigners living in Guangzhou, and asked them what are some of the quirkier things about Chinese culture they've noticed since moving here. What we're going to do as a panel is we're going to debate whether or not that's a valid part of Chinese culture that foreigners find difficult to deal with, or whether that's something that's a bit overblown. Essentially, truth or myth. Now, I'm joined here by an esteemed panel, and I'll introduce each of these gentlemen and ladies to you now. On my right, your left, is Mr. Paul Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Paul is a comedian up in Shanghai. He also is a writer, and you can read his column in every issue of Time Out Shanghai. Paul, why are you so beautiful?
It's a question I get a lot, but thank you, Sean.
On my right here is Garen Chu. Garen is also a stand-up comic in Hong Kong with Takeout Comedy, and he also works in advertising because comedians don't make any money.
No, we don't.
On my left, your right here is Lum Lum. Woo! Lum Lum is a fashion buyer. And she also doesn't want anyone to touch her hair. This is Lum Lum, everyone. And finally, on my left, your right, this is Mr. Tambi Chan. Tambi is as well joining us from Hong Kong, where he is a traveling international comedian. So thank you so much for being here today. And my name is Sean Hebert, as well a comedian from Hong Kong, and I thank you for having me. I'm your host today on China Chats. Now, one of my responsibilities as the host of China Chats is to have this bell. This is the racism bell. Every time somebody says something a little bit racist, I'm gonna ring the bell. Now, there's no penalty, this isn't a game show, but saying something racist on national television is its own penalty. So, watch yourselves here today. I'll bell anyone who's on the street being racist too, so don't worry. But if you hear the bell, take it down a notch, guys. Take it down just a notch. Well then, without further ado, we'd love to throw to the Vox Pops. These are our man on the streets. They're going to give us our first topic. So let's take a look.
Yeah, I see like, especially when you're in a public place, you see like a kid with the pants open from down. I don't know why.
Kids, always kids.
Like, especially in front of banks, children like peeing. They really like the front of banks. That's annoying.
They have pampers, you can put pampers on, so it's okay. But I don't know why you leave it down so they pee and take shit in the street.
I haven't seen anybody peeing in public here. So, yes, maybe once, but I was just a child, so it's not shocking that much. And we can do that across the world. I mean, in Europe, you can see that happen really often, mostly at night, by the way.
For me, I'm African, so I'm usually seeing that. But I mean, when you come from Europe, it's gonna be different for you. But for me, it's okay because I'm from Africa, so everybody do it.
There's so many public toilets.
People who are like sitting on the toilets like that, and they're sitting on the thing, but normally you just have to sit like this, but they're putting their feet on the toilets. I mean, why?
I have to say that this is disgusting.
Truly speaking, the public toilets looks like in my high school before.
Yeah, I mean, levels of sanitation are still pretty low here, but they're improving all the time. So I've been coming here for over 10 years, so I tend to see more of the positive than the negative.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start by ringing the bell on that African dude who was racist to himself for some reason. That was an awesome start. He's like, well, I am from Africa, so obviously I expect nothing. So I guess I can start. How many people here have pooed in the street? Anyone want to own up to that? You are on television. Anyone here? Okay. Well, Lum Lum, as the resident Chinese expert, why are you pooing and peeing all over your country?
I'm not answering that question. Bell, please.
It's my bell. You don't get to choose when I ring the bell.
I really don't think that's a very big problem because not everybody anytime feel free to poop or pee in public. After 12 o'clock at night around the bars, you see people facing the wall looking like they're talking to themselves, maybe not. But I think that's kind of okay after 12. And I also travel a lot. I take a lot of business trip to Paris, for example, and they also do that.
Hey, I do it, so I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, so when drinking, but I think the video was addressing like a wider problem.
Well, I mean, I do think people are targeted. Like, you know, in Hong Kong, when a kid is like peeing on the street, everyone's taking out their cameras, like, oh, the mainlanders peeing on the street, peeing on the street. And then at night, and like around a bar, when a white guy is peeing on the street corner, nobody's saying anything. It's like, it's just white people, don't worry about it.
Okay. So there's a double standard.
There's a double standard. A little bit of it.
So Paul, why are you peeing all over China?
I think I do see this a lot in Shanghai. I don't mind peeing on the street as much as pooping on the street. I mean, I don't mind seeing it, but I do mind stepping in it.
So somebody in the video addressed like a type of pants that have just an open slit and there's no diaper. Is that something you've seen, Tambi?
Yeah, I guess it's easier for the kid if you don't have to pull down his pants, just kind of like poop and then bloop, like that, yeah. I don't know. I used to be a kid and Chinese. And like, I remember peeing. I don't think I ever pooed on the street though. And but pee's sterile, right? So that's cool. And you barely smell it. But poo's not cool. So that's what I'm gonna land on there, yeah. So please stop pooing on the street.
Okay, well let's move on to the squatter toilet. I mean, Lum Lum, I'm looking back to you now.
Well, I used to be a yoga instructor. Do you know squatting is actually really good for your digestive system?
So you're telling me if I see a grandmother instructing her small child to poo in the road, I should say, well, that's just great parenting. I mean, look at what she's done there. That's amazing. Tambi?
Yeah, I for one enjoy the squatting toilets. It helps me like engage my core, you know, work my leg muscles and stuff.
But it was weird because like sometimes, especially not so much in Hong Kong, but like in Shenzhen and Guangdong, there are some really nice places like bars and clubs that still use squatter toilets. And I want to ask Lum on this: when you're drunk and wearing heels, how do you use a squatter toilet? Because guys, we can stand over. Girls, you have no choice.
I used to be a yoga instructor.
Okay. Everyone else is screwed, but you're okay. I don't have a selfish bell, but thank you, Lum Lum. That's appreciated. All right, I think we've solved the entire social problem of public urination and defecation.
Do you guys have a problem with squatting toilets, like versus normal toilets? You know, like, cause I prefer them. You know, like, cause with normal toilets sometimes there's like splashback, right? With squatter toilets, not the case. Totally dry.
Too much information. We're gonna move on to the. Let's pull up the next Vox Pop and see what the next Chinese cultural quirk is that we'll be discussing.
Yes, I have seen Chinese taking a lot of pictures.
Chinese people taking a lot of photos while eating or while going out. I have no idea why they do so.
They keep taking pictures of me. I have been photographed in Tiananmen Square and on the Great Wall and in Shanghai.
And maybe it should stop, and maybe people who stare at certain people, maybe they should stop staring and be polite and not take their pictures without their permission.
Yeah, what's wrong with meeting new people?
Really, really bad.
He's right. What's wrong with meeting new people? What's the problem there? Okay, taking photos in public. Paul, you're the most beautiful person up here on stage with us. Do you find people take photos of you all the time in China?
They take pictures of my kids a lot, but I told them just think of it as you getting to feel like a celebrity without having to do any of the work of being a celebrity.
Tammy, what do you think? Taking photos in public, is that a Chinese thing or is that just an overblown?
Maybe it's because like people, you know, these people, yeah, they came to China recently. They got to observe the trend in China, right? Whereas like back home, you know, people take pictures of like food or selfies, but yeah.
Well, I guess that one student seemed a little perturbed.
Oh yeah, well like yeah, it is a Chinese thing when you're taking pictures of like the black people, yeah.
Okay.
Like, yeah, or like the white people, yeah.
I'm not. I mean, it was just when you said the black people. I think that was it was the word the there. That was the. Okay, so taking pictures of people of a different ethnicity, right?
Yeah,
so
okay,
maybe that's what we're talking
keep it
about.
classy. Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I really don't like that. People taking pictures of people that you don't know without asking. That's why I find a gorgeous boyfriend so that people take pictures of him, not me.
Lum Lum, really making the show about her today. I like that. Well, let's throw it to the audience. Has anyone here ever had a photograph taken in China and you did not allow the photo to be taken?
It's only white people putting their hands up right now.
What's the explanation for that, Garen?
Well, you know, it's something they don't usually get to see, I think. Like, when tourists come to Hong Kong, I notice a lot of them are taking photos of me, but only because I have a white girlfriend, and they're like, oh, look, it can happen too. And so, you know, but I take it as a compliment. I'm just like, I'll pose too.
Speaking of dating and photography with the phones, I've seen a lot of couples like on a date at restaurants in China where they're both just looking at their phones with each other. Is that a thing? Am I crazy?
But that happens back home too.
I think that happens in the States as well. But it's one of those things where, yeah, the phone technology allows you to communicate with anyone in the world except for the person opposite you.
Right. So it's when you've fallen out of love. That's when the phones come out.
Thank you, technology. Here's a list of people I would rather be with.
Okay.
Right in your pocket.
Lovely. We're getting to the bottom of real issues here today on China Chats. Let's go back out into the streets and let's see what our next topic is going to be.
In the underground or for everything, they just push and...
Chinese is just like, hi, they don't like to line up.
My wife and myself, we were queuing up to get in line, and then some guy shoves past us with his trolley.
But you have to be, because here is a lot of people, so you do have to be kind of smart or something. You have to cut what you want, yes.
And what really surprised me about that last one was that it was very often older people doing it, you know, being quite tough, quite strong, but really pushing their way onto buses and stuff.
People don't like to wait in line. There are no lines.
Pushing. Okay, let's get into it. Pushing in China, not waiting in lines. Who here in the crowd thinks that is more of a problem in China than maybe other parts of the world? It's a real racial divide with some of the questions in the audience here today. Okay, so let's get into it. Lum Lum.
I actually think that is a problem, and a lot of us is doing it. I think the problem is when you actually get in line, you actually get faster. If they don't line up, take them to the end of the line, then maybe they should learn to do that.
This is the kindergarten teacher approach to running a society.
And sometimes, honestly, most of the time when I'm lining up for something, you know, in Hong Kong, you'll see like mainlanders cut lines. And there's two reactions. My first reaction was always like, oh, what the hell, that guy cut the line and he got the cab. And my second reaction is always like, damn, I should have thought of that first, like I just got the cab.
So they're smarter. That's what you're saying. It's smarter. I mean, the pushing, it's crowded in China. I mean, how much of an element is, I mean, if you know, New York City was twice as dense, would people not be pushing there? Is that fair, or is it a cultural thing?
No, yeah, because New York City, people still have, like, you know, decorum.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like these people.
Oh, that's the bell.
I think he was going for the bell there. The words "these people." Why don't we just lock those in a box under the racist bell?
Is it broadly cultural? I mean, I feel like it's mostly old people that do it. Like that seems to be the majority of people who cut in line. Yeah, I always think if you're at the back of a line and you're old and you look at the front, you're like, I might be dead before I get to the front.
If they ask you, can I be in front of you because I'm old, would you let him? Yeah, that's not called cutting the line. If you tell me you I don't know, you have to go to the bathroom, you need to be at the bank, you need to be on the plane, tell me. I'll let you be in front of me. Just don't push, don't elbow, and just stand there like I didn't see you.
Getting into to some deeper waters here. I like where the conversation's going. Only one racist bell on the pushing, so I appreciate it. Let's go back to the street.
You go to one restaurant and you have never been in China and you see old people just washing the tea. Maybe not me, but some of my friends when they came here, they just drank this tea and say, no, this is for washing.
So they have a bag and then they blow into the bag so that they can get out the chopstick. And so therefore they wash it first with some tea, some hot tea.
Okay, two things. Number one, that shouldn't happen. Like, they have people who wash their dishes and they pay them. If they don't do it well enough, why are they still there? Number two, if they already give me like the tea and the whole pot in which to put that tea after washing my dishes, then I think, are you telling me that they're dirty? Like.
Yeah, bonus points to that last guy who was very passionate on all the reasons he didn't like the washing. My question actually for the crowd is this just a Guangdong province thing? Yes. Okay, has anyone been anywhere else in China and seen it?
They do it in Beijing.
Beijing as well, Hong Kong a little bit.
Yeah. With the plastic set come onto the table and you poke it, I really like that.
You like the poking?
Oh yeah.
It's like a little present for yourself, huh?
Yeah.
Tammy, what's your feeling on the self-washing at a table?
Well, Sean, it's funny you would ask. See?
Tammy, you're the worst television guest ever. Thank you.
I don't get it, right? Because, like, it's just hot water, right? So, like, there's no detergent, there are no gloves. We're supposed to believe that the hot water itself cleans the dishes. You know, that doesn't make any sense to me. Y'all agree with me, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Also, like, when they serve the food, right? We don't have the option of washing those dishes. So we just assume those are f***ing dirty. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. So we just assume those are dirty, right?
I should have like 6 bells for you, Tammy. Come on now.
And
good point. Okay, so if you bring the food out on a dish itself,
yes, true.
Then what about that dish?
Yeah.
Why did nobody wash that dish at the table? I'm gonna throw it over to here because I'm done with this side. But
I want to answer the last guy's question. Is like, are we supposed to assume it's dirty? Yes. It's dirty. You clean it yourself. Like, have you ever been to the bathroom at a restaurant and you see one of the chefs like washing his hands, dries it, and then he picks his nose? Like, yeah, I'm gonna wash my own dish.
So why is that not a practice anywhere else? Why is that just here?
Oh, I think because the chefs here are dirtier, regardless of their race. It's a health and safety issue, not a Chinese thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a health and safety. I mean, that's a fair point. Is it a health? Are there more lax regulations here?
It's a better safe than sorry issue for me.
Let's go back out into the street.
Only one problem we have, like if you take any taxi driver, they don't speak English.
I can't really find like where to go, like how will I go, so I have to just ask the help of the people, but sometimes the people also trick us. That's what really makes me wonder, like why do I get tricked like by strangers like that? They can just help me out to go to the right direction, right?
No one speaks English here, especially like on the streets.
Or they try to talk in English a little bit, or they say, no. You are not congruent, push it congruent. Bah, you don't know my language, I don't want to talk.
I really like the Indian guy in the video who like was falling apart emotionally because he's like, why do they trick me? I don't know why is it me? Is it like, it seemed like it was just him, right? It was just him getting tricked. Okay, not speaking English. Garen,
I'm gonna get the bell here, but sometimes expats are so annoying. Like, they really are. Like, I'm not gonna go to America and be like, why aren't people speaking Chinese? What the hell? Like, you come here, yeah, people are gonna speak Chinese. I think, you have to at least learn how to say your address to a taxi driver. Like, that's the bare minimum.
Paul?
Yeah, I don't expect that everybody should be able to speak English. I think it's more of a problem that there's so many Chinese that don't speak good Chinese. It's a very difficult language. Like, nobody tells you this when you first come over. You listen to people for your first year or two, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to do what that guy's doing. But it really depends on their level of education. There are lots of people who don't speak very good Mandarin. I mean, yeah, you can be terrible at Chinese, but it turns out everyone is. It's a very difficult language. If you haven't started studying it yet, don't. You're not going to get it.
First of all, I didn't quite understand them. So
fair point.
So if I accidentally say the wrong address to that Indian guy, I'm gonna not blame myself too much because I understood wrong.
One time I went to Zimbabwe, yeah, and they didn't speak English there either. I wonder why that is. The thinker, huh? No English in Zimbabwe or Guangzhou. Weird.
We're speaking out to those expats in Guangdong province and saying, learn Chinese.
No,
Go ahead and learn some Chinese. We've got some great suggestions from the folks out in the street, but what we'd like to do now is actually poll the audience here. We've actually asked the audience before the show to WeChat us any questions that they have or observations they have about Chinese culture. And we're going to do a bit of a rapid-fire audience round. Okay, the audience has been texting, and we are now ready to respond. So we got some questions on the board. We're going to start at the top. Why Chinese people always like using umbrellas?
Because they don't want to get tanned. Because if they look tanned, then people will assume that they're like farmers.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no bell. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just about not getting tan, but I had this lady I worked with who was always carrying around an umbrella, and she's like, get under here, and it's like 5 degrees cooler.
Have you heard of these umbrellas they have now?
They're not just
Let's move on to the next question. Why are server workers perpetually angry at you?
No, different restaurants, different service, and in Paris, all of them are like that.
Okay.
But they're French.
They are French, that's right. I'll take one. I'll take one for the team with that. Garen?
No, I think it's because, especially for expats, they need to get things done as fast as possible. They're very busy. So when they get to someone who doesn't know how to read the menu, it's like, can you tell me what's good? They're like, hurry up. And that's why they get angry. So again, learn Chinese.
Or maybe they just have a grumpy face.
Maybe they have a grumpy face.
A lot of Chinese people, when they don't have any facial expression, and they...
No, continue. A lot of Chinese people, go ahead.
Has a different face.
Different face.
You really backpedaled off of that. Yeah, they do have different faces. Let's go to the next question. What's the weirdest question a Chinese person has asked you? Paul, since you appear to look like a model, I'm sure people are always coming up and asking you crazy things.
I don't have a specific question in mind. I don't know why you keep bringing up my looks. It's very awkward. That was one of the more awkward questions I've been asked, but not by a Chinese person. So.
Just by me.
By
That's
you,
right.
yeah.
Anyone have a weird question that someone's asked them?
Yeah, a Chinese person once asked me, how come I'm not as successful as my brother? It was my mom.
It was your mom, yeah.
Oh.
Thank you for that, Tandy. We appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for asking your fascinating questions. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thanks for participating. That concludes our controversial discussion on Chinese cultural quirks. Hopefully we've learned a little bit. Certainly some of us have lost friendships that we thought we had with one another up on the stage. But hopefully these will also inspire more conversations at home as well as in the crowd here. So thanks for bringing it up. It makes it a little bit better. It's a little bit of a culture hug that I think we just had together. If you've been offended by anything that we said on the show, just go screw yourself. I don't think you need to No, we thank you so much for watching this episode of China Chats. Please tune in next time. My name's been Sean Hebert. Thanks.